Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
in their meeting with us, we were allowed to take a good look at ourselves. We were reminded that we are made in the image and the likeness of God. And if that is true, there's some things we have to change that we've been thinking all along. We were given a whole new set of lenses with which to see the Word of God when we read it with a desire to understand what that love letter is all about. We were allowed to put ourselves, not talk about somebody else, like the sermon wasn't for this one or that one, but it was for us. We have gained such growth this week. I have gained such growth this week. My eyes have been opened. And God also used the Taylors to help me to see the things that have been happening in my life were His call on my life to be a better person, to be more caring, more loving, more compassionate. Have you written a letter to yourself yet? We did that this week. We wrote a love letter to ourselves. And we weren't afraid to call ourselves beautiful because we are made in the image and the likeness of God. Amen. I pray that everyone here had an opportunity at least one night to have joined with the Taylors to begin that new journey. You ever been in a race and you're running and you see the end inside? We're at that place. The end is inside. But there's some things we need to correct. There's some erroneous information we've carried for a while, and so much so it has been inculcated in our spirits. But we saw this week it's okay to let go of that. And it is now time for us to see what God intends for us. What we need to chase after is love. Not houses, not cars, not clothes, not food. God said in Matthew 6:33, He'll provide all of that. So this week, our hearts have been open to receive God as He desired to be received by us. And we want to say thank you to the Taylors for this.
So, Sister Sands, you have participated in her journey to healing, reaching people with a desperate cry. How was it?
Awesome. Awesome. It was a period like no other. It proved to me the importance of unlearning to learn. It was very enlightening, very burden releasing, and accepting oneself the way one was created, the way God intended for one to live.
So anxious resistant. So remember there were 4 categories, right? Mm-hmm. So anxious resistant kids were on the opposite end of the spectrum. They didn't have a lot of self-confidence. They really clung to their caregivers, whether it's parents. When I say caregivers, I mean parents, grandparents, just old people in their lives who were, really part of that initial bonding experience. For these kids, they tended to have really exaggerated emotional reactions to stuff, but they also kept the distance from their peers. How did this translate into adulthood? That translated into anxious, preoccupied adults. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of formed less secure bonds with partners and feel really desperate for love and affection.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello. Welcome back to Monday Nights with KW.
All right. The sound is good. And we are so excited to have you here on tonight.
Hey, Sister Rosabelle. It's good to see you.
Haven't seen you in a little while, Sister Rosabelle. Can you hear us perfectly, Sister Rosabelle? It is such a blessing to be on this evening. Thank you so very, 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 very much for being here. All right. This evening, we are excited to be here. It's Monday. How are you feeling?
We're celebrating because it's Monday. So that's what we have learned to do this Monday. Oh, it's been a while since I've been here.
Yes.
I am celebrating.
It's not just you. We've been doing replays.
Yes.
Yes.
So what are we celebrating this evening?
Well, I know what I'm celebrating. What are you celebrating?
Well, let's talk about what you're celebrating later. But what are you thankful for today, specifically?
I am thankful for my family.
All right. Sister Rosabelle has been traveling. We're so grateful to God that you are here with us. We're grateful to God that you decided to come by on tonight, and we hope you'll have fun. Sister Remo is here. Hey, Sister Remo, how are you? I'm sorry for keeping everybody waiting, but we're so grateful that you decided to hang out with us and to wait for us. Thank you so much for being here with us this evening. So, we're excited to be with you this evening. We're excited to be talking with you. I'm super excited about our guests this evening. All this shoveled and all that stuff as though we were fighting. I'm excited about our guest this evening. Our guest is no other than my friend, my wife, my best friend. Dr. Noah Washington was supposed to be with us on tonight. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us, which was no problem. We didn't want to bump anyone, but we wanted an opportunity to talk to Kamala because Kamala is now Dr. Kamala Glenn-Taylor.
Whoop, whoop.
I know that's what you're going to say. Thankful for.
Yes.
And so that's the discussion. We want to talk to her about her journey, gaining her PhD. We want to talk to her about consistency, resilience, steadfastness. But then we also want to have a discussion with her about her research. And that's what you don't want to miss tonight. You do not want to miss the research, our discussion about research. So could you just stay with us? Let's run to a quick little break, and we will be right back for the discussion. Thank you, Sister Rosabelle. And by the way, for those of you that want to congratulate Kamala, we welcome you to send a gift to ComWinMin Cash App sign, which is $, count. There it is. So if you want to congratulate Kamala and tell her job well done on getting her PhD, we're setting up our Cash App up there so that we're taking gifts, and we will be very, very grateful for all your congratulations. We are not bashful at all. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We are so excited to be back with you this evening. We're speaking to Dr. Kamala Glenn-Taylor. And what we said was, if you want to congratulate, hello, Sister Sands, good evening, welcome. We're so excited that you're here. We're congratulating Kamala on gaining her PhD. And anybody that wants to say congratulations, and if you want to do so in a financial way, you simply cash out ComWinMin, and we will gladly accept your gifts. We're not being bashful tonight, are we? No, not being bashful tonight. As a matter of fact, we just bought some brand new sound equipment, okay, that needs to be paid for. So we're not being bashful at all tonight. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We're so grateful that you're here. Kamala, congratulations on getting your PhD.
Thank you.
How did you decide that you wanted to do this? Why?
I'll start with the funny story and then I'll tell you the truth. So I finished up my grad program and student loans started knocking, and I said the best way to avoid them is by going back
Feels good. Does that mean you're about to go back to school again? That was good.
So, jokes aside, when I was in my graduate program at Valdosta State University, one of my professors was Dr. Lana Kim, and she was really just a treasure chest. And I had a lot of great professors, don't get me wrong, but she was a treasure chest of information. I used to sit in her practicum in awe when she would. So one of the things that we did in our graduate program is that we had a student-led clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we had to do as students who were learning is that we would do behind the mirror scenes. So we'd have clinicians who were in their second year who would be working with actual clients, and then we'd have a team that would be behind a one-sided mirror. So we could watch, but the people inside the room couldn't see us. And inside the room with us was a supervisor who was one of our professors. And so she happened to be one of the professors that I worked with behind the mirror. And so of course we would talk about what was going on inside the room. On occasion, the supervisor would leave and go into the room and interact with that therapist as well as the client they were working with. And as I watched her interact, I was just awestruck. Just the wealth of knowledge, just how she had an approach that was authoritative but gentle. And so as I watched her, I was just so inspired that I wanted to be like her. And I wanted to know, how did she get to be where she was? And one of the things that she shared with us, I mean, her PhD at that time was in medical marriage and family therapy. And so I said, wow, this lady right here is an inspiration. And so when I finished grad school, I had just a couple of months in between finishing that program. And then I got started in a medical marriage and family PhD program. And it has been invaluable. It's not just the information, but the interactions, just everything about going through that experience, I feel was really helpful.
What I want to ask you about that experience, because I'm married to you, so I kind of know. You started, I remember when you started the program, and you started with one subject at a time, and it took you 6 years. Talk to us a little bit about resilience, what it meant to, number one, well, why did you start with so little?
Okay. Well, my wife, a pastor, working full time, a mom, added some kids along the way. But I knew that in order to give quality work, I would have to manage my time. And so the school gave an option where you could do either one course at a time or you could do overlapping courses. And I thought about my life. I thought about the responsibilities and different things that I was juggling. I thought about how can I manage this plus doing everything that I'm doing. And what I said to myself is, I want to do this, but I want to do it in a quality way. And so I made the decision that, no matter how long it was going to take, that I would just go one course at a time. I wasn't going to overwhelm myself because I wanted to be able to really get into the content, understand it for myself.
And you made all A's.
I did.
Congrats. Now, not only did you make all A's, and you're a great therapist. I know you're a great therapist because I've actually seen the letters that people send you. I've actually spoken to your colleagues, and so you're a great therapist, right? What I want for us to talk about for a quick second is marriage and family therapy. I'm gonna tell you, I don't agree with the title. And my wife and I argued for about 2 hours one morning about their title. Good night, Christine. As a matter of fact, you can pop in your question at any time, by the way. Pop in your question at any time that you want to ask them all. What is marriage and family therapy? Because when I heard marriage and family therapy, I immediately thought marriage, family, therapy. But in reality, it has nothing to do with marriage and family. Talk to us. What is marriage and family therapy?
So that's a very common misconception. The name does indeed appear to box you into a certain group. Like you said, people who are married or in a family context. But really and truly, what marriage and family therapy is is a systemic approach to therapy, where we're always looking at the individual, not just as someone unto themselves, but also somebody who is a part of larger systems. So for example, I am the individual coming to therapy. However, as the individual coming to therapy, I come from a history, I come from a family, I come from a current family, I come from a past family history, I come from my connections within my community, whether that be medical connections, whether it might be financial connections, whether it might be social connections. I come from my peer group, I come from my work group, and all of those systems together interact to make me.
Right.
Not only do I come from all of those work, family, medical, financial systems, I'm also part of a larger societal construct, the way we see the world as a society.
So marriage and family therapy is a branch of mental therapy, right?
Mental health.
It's it's akin to psychology, it's akin to
psychology, akin to counseling, akin to social work, in the sense that those are all different disciplines within the mental health field.
Right? But marriage and family therapy takes into account the person's the entire person.
Yes.
So nobody is by themselves. Nobody comes alone.
No.
And I believe that's a great approach to use when we're discussing with people. All right. What is medical marriage and family therapy? And I want to spend, I don't want to go any further than 8:30 in talking about this. I want to spend a bunch of the time talking about the relationship between childhood trauma in women, COVID-19, and alcohol abuse. That's what I really want to spend the bulk of our time talking about. So tell us real quick, what is medical marriage and family therapy?
So what medical marriage and family does...
Yes, hold on a second. Yes, Christine. That was really, really misleading.
Yes.
I genuinely thought. So, Christine, let me tell you how the argument even came up, okay? Her heroes, well, I don't really get to talk about that here. We were talking about some of her professors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying that those professors can't talk about family. Remember? That's how the discussion came up. Like, they can't. And then my wife, out of nowhere, says to me, and you have to understand how my wife speaks. My wife can be very condescending, okay? I'm just going to be honest with you, all right? When she gets heady, she can be condescending, all right? So she looks at me and she goes, marriage and family therapy does not have anything to do with marriage and family. So I turned and said, how would I know that? I thought you were doing therapy on people who exactly who did marriage and family. And then she broke it down to me, Christine. No, this is a branch of science that studies the mind, like psychology, but marriage and family is the name given to it because of the systematic approach or the systems approach that is used that says you are not by yourself. You are a part of something that made you the way you are. So we need to go find those different connections that you have and deal with them. And I think it's powerful. Absolutely. And the way Kamala does her stuff is really powerful. All right. Tell us what medical marriage and family therapy is.
So just think about it from the standpoint of a specialization. A doctor can specialize in oncology. A doctor can specialize in pediatrics. In marriage and family therapy, you can specialize in a specific population. And so medical marriage and family therapy still looks at people from a systemic standpoint, but the specialization is in understanding the interconnection between medical conditions and the medical community as a part of that individual's path. So for instance, if you have somebody, a medical marriage and family therapist would then work really specifically with somebody who has medical conditions.
So for example, an alcoholic.
For example, an alcoholic.
And and I know that at Turning Point, where you started, that was the people you mainly worked with were alcoholics. Did that kind of, I know you were going to do medical marriage and family therapy based on your model, but did that impress you even more as you dealt with people who were addicted to stuff?
150,000%.
Right.
So the first thing that comes to mind when you ask about that is the fact that a lot of people might not easily recognize alcoholism as a medical condition, but it is a disease,
right,
like any other. And so working with the individuals that I work with at Turning Point, the thing that really struck me about individuals with alcoholism or substance use issues is that those individuals never came to be treated just because they had a drinking problem,
Right.
or because they had a drug problem.
Right.
They came to be treated because alcoholism and substance use was a symptom of a larger process that was happening with them. For a lot of people, it was trauma.
Right. You're going ahead of our discussion,
sorry.
but that's fine. In other words, marriage and family therapy and medical therapy are a ministry. And I want to say something about this ministry piece. My boss, Dr. Carlton P. Bird, the greatest human being to walk this planet, I would argue greater than Solomon. You might believe it's your professor. What's her name? Martha and
Kate and Martha.
right, but I believe it's Dr. Bird. The best boss that I've ever had. Pastor Brown is no longer a boss; he's a dad, so we take him out of the boss role. The best boss I've ever had said to me the other day that your wife is one of the biggest assets to your ministry, and she is. She is, and I want to say this publicly so that everybody can hear and they can say whatever they want to say. You're one of the biggest assets to our ministry. If it wasn't for you, and right beside you, Annika Fagan. Well, if it wasn't for Annika Fagan, neither of us would be where we are. So Annika is the brain behind us, if that makes sense. KW Ministries is Annika. I thought of it, but she built it. Every single thing with KW Ministries,
we see.
everything you see is Annika. So that's not the discussion I'm having. I'm talking about the day-to-day occurrence of ministering to people. That's you. And I'm grateful to you. Kamala worked for Better Health. I think you have one client you're still passing off, are you? And when we got to our district here, and she saw the needs in our district, my wife quit her second job. To minister to people. And I want to publicly say thank you. Annika, I think this is a good time to raise an offering. Yeah, listen, man, I can't help it. I'm a preacher. I can't help it. Put up the cash app, man. Put up the cash app. Here's a good time to help me say thank you to my wife. Please help me say thank you to my wife. Let's cash out. Come on, let's work that cash out. All right. Yes, I'm raising money for the equipment we just bought. We spent a lot of money on it. So help me say thank you to my wife. Yeah. Well, so we really, really, really appreciate you. All right. So now let's go into the crux of the matter that I wanted to talk to you about tonight. You did. Yes, Sister Remo. And Sister Remo, we appreciate people like you so much that have been. I need for you to stop watching that stupid boy, though. What's his name? I know his name. I can't remember it right now. Now, when I remember it, I'm going to tell you his name. You can put his name in there so I can say it. But the crux of the thing that I want for us to talk about tonight, I want to delve in and I want for you to educate us, is the relationship between COVID-19, alcohol use in women who suffered from trauma. Mm-hmm. Could you define for us childhood trauma?
So when you look at childhood trauma, there are typically about 8 areas that you're looking at. And those can be broken down in this way. You're looking at history of physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, family breakdown. Family breakdown can look like divorce or separation in the family. It can look like a family member who's incarcerated. You're also looking at individuals who have family members or primary support caregivers who have also suffered with mental illness. And so anybody who has grown up in that kind of environment, which everybody has had some kind of interaction, whether it's between a family member who's been incarcerated or a family member with mental health or divorce or separation or abuse of some kind, those categories define childhood trauma, if you will.
So would it be safe for me to say that many of us have experienced childhood trauma?
Yes, it would be safe to say. So one of the formative studies on this was called the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, and that was by some really fancy name people, Phility, and this was in 1998. And what they found when they assessed a great number of the population is that most individuals had experienced some kind of trauma in one of those categories. For some people, it was like maybe they experienced it one time or in one category. For others, they experienced multiple categories. And so based on that, they started to recognize that, okay, individuals who went through those childhood trauma experiences were more likely to have adverse mental health outcomes, medical health outcomes, as well as socioeconomic outcomes.
So there's a question I want to ask you, Kamala, as we talk about childhood trauma. If we're an adult now, and I'm thinking about Sister Remo, I'm thinking about Sister Sands, and I'm thinking about Sister Martin, for example, who are late, who are advanced, who are seasoned people. If they had childhood trauma and it wasn't dealt with, what is your recommendation for seasoned people who are further on in years? What is your recommendation for how they can deal with childhood trauma?
First thing I would say is it's not too late to seek therapy. And the reason why I stress that as important is because trauma manifests itself in many different ways. The things that we experience in life set the tone, or if you will, create the lens for how we interpret all of our other experiences. So for example, let's say I grew up in a home where there was mental, emotional abuse, right? Let's say I had a caregiver, a parent, or a sibling, or just somebody who was older than me who I was constantly interacting with. That person was somebody who tended to belittle me, verbally abuse me, yell, scream, have threatening gestures, right? How I interpret somebody yelling, screaming throughout as I grow without having talked through it, dealt with it at all, I'm going to interpret those same actions as the same way I interpret them as a child, if that makes sense. And so I might find myself responding to somebody's verbal outburst from a place of, I don't feel safe. I feel afraid. I can't articulate why I feel afraid because that response has been with me for a very long time.
It's what you know.
It's what I know. It's right. And so that individual who has never gone through the work of, processing that childhood trauma might find themselves having difficulty in interactions because they interpret certain things in a particular way. And there's no differentiation. If that makes sense.
Yes, no. Because it's a part of you. Please, chime in with your questions. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to hear your questions. So you're saying then it doesn't matter what age you are, therapy is good.
Absolutely. And I, especially in looking at this kind of work, I would especially stress it in our communities of color, in our
spiritual, religious
communities, because in those populations we see the most stigma,
right,
as it relates to mental health therapy.
Right. Something I want you to touch on real quick. And Sister Remo just said no one is exempt, and that's so true, Sister Remo. No one is exempt. I know my childhood trauma comes from being left on a doorstep when I was 5 months old. My childhood trauma comes from people telling me I was found in a garbage can. I was found on a doorstep. And those things have carried over into the way I treat people, into the way my whole defense mechanism is that you're going to leave anyway, so I'm going to push you away. And that has played out in our marriage. As a matter of fact, let's go back real quick. Why did you originally go into marriage and family therapy?
Oh, my very original thought was, my gosh, there's some things going on in my marriage that I just don't understand. I want to be able to fix it.
So let me interpret that for you. Winston's crazy and he needs help. Let me try and help him.
So that is your interpretation of it, but that is not the case. When I first had the thought process about it, yes, we were having challenges, but I wasn't looking at it from something is wrong with Winston. I was looking at it from
Something's wrong with our
what's
marriage.
wrong. No, what's wrong with my approach here? That's where I came from. And not really subsequent, kind of concurrent with that was I felt like God was leading me in that.
No, because when you came to me, I knew exactly what God wanted to do. And Kamala, has always been I don't know what you call it, but in her previous life, you need to know that Kamala was a DNA analyst. She was one of those. What do you call it? Forensic folk. All right. Let's move quickly now so childhood trauma affects most of everybody. If you have somebody in prison, that can affect you. If you have you listed 8 different areas where childhood trauma can affect you. So let's talk real quick about COVID and childhood trauma. How did COVID affect childhood trauma?
So one of the things that started coming up when COVID first emerged, and as we went through the months and then years, one of the things that started coming out in the mental health field was this idea of the experience of COVID-19 as a traumatic experience. And the reason for that is because with traumatic experience, it's typically something that can feel life-threatening or can impact your life in a very significant way. It's something that is typically outside of your control, and it's typically something that has lasting impact on you. So when you look at COVID-19, it's definitely out of our control. It was definitely something that caused us to be faced with life-threatening emotions and experiences. And in many ways, many people lost their lives. And it was something that we couldn't anticipate the ending of. And so it was like we were caught in this traumatic experience.
It's like a country. It's like a worldwide traumatic experience.
Definitely a worldwide traumatic experience.
So we have all been through trauma if we were born.
All been through trauma. If you have been alive in the past 3 years, you have been through trauma. Your entire worldview changed. Many people, your entire lifestyle changed, and even now, the way you view your world has changed.
So let me ask you something, Kamala, because there's something I have a horse here to ride, and it's all the systems failed during COVID. Our hospital systems failed. Our government failed. Our businesses failed. Our education system failed. Our police, our security systems failed. Our churches failed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Why would you say that our churches failed?
So COVID-19 affected us collectively. And collectively, we lost the social supports that undergird us as a people. So church is a social support. I'm using that very loosely right here. Church is the place where we come to interact with others. Yes, church is spiritual, but church is also a place where we come to interact with each other as individuals.
Which is a part of spirituality, fellowship.
Exactly. And so we lost the ability to fellowship, to socialize, to connect with other people in the context of something greater than me.
But then didn't we also though lose this faith aspect where I don't believe most of us have a personal relationship with Jesus. I don't believe that most of us have a faith, right? I don't believe most of us have that. I believe for many of us, it's a form of godliness, the Bible calls it. But what we at least had was the church.
Yeah.
And if we could just get to the church house and hear the sermon, we would feel better. If we could get to the church house and sing, we would feel better. So forth and so on. As a matter of fact, I was interviewing Dr. John Nixon during that time. And Dr. Nixon said, all of our faith is about to be tested. We're about to find out who really believe in God. Because there's no intercessor for you as it relates to human. There's no church
to go to. There's that social
You
piece.
had to rely purely on your belief,
Your relationship
your
with God.
personal individual.
So when I say the church failed us, I'm saying the church failed us in that it's closed its door. What impact did that have on people? Did your research show that at all?
My research in particular didn't go into that aspect of the spirituality, but if I could just talk about my thoughts about it, is that when we removed church, we removed, like you said, that connection to this thing that anchors me to faith.
Right.
And so without that tangible anchor, we were left with the intangible. And the way we didn't, and the way that manifested itself was there was a loss of hope, right?
Right.
Loss of hope. If I can't rely on my church, if I can't rely on my doctors, if I can't rely on people, who can I rely on? And so we were left feeling like in any trauma experience, we were left feeling out of control of everything that was happening to us. And there was no end in sight. There was no outlet. There was no solution.
So here is the thing then, Kamala. Now let's couple that now with alcohol. Let's couple that now with childhood trauma. So let's couple, and let's talk about women specifically, and tell us what your research has found. Let's couple this loss of hope, this loss of community, this loss of systems. The system has failed us. People didn't trust they're talking about vaccines, and people thought the government were doing stuff, and all of this stuff. Now, it was very sad, Christian. How would childhood trauma now have coupled with that? What would that produce, and how did that result in more alcohol usage?
In the
I know your
absence,
research.
you sure do. In the absence of,
I think it should have been a shared PhD first, but it's okay.
In the 70
me?
No.
Oh, yeah.
In the absence of identifiable supports, resources, we will seek out whatever helps us to feel better in the moment. That's what we do.
But before we go to the alcohol usage, Mom, I want you to couple the traumatic experience from COVID with the childhood trauma, and what is that person experiences? What did that look like for that person?
So think about what I said earlier. So if I have gone through an experience of childhood trauma,
right,
the lens through which I see the world is already colored by that trauma. If this has been unresolved,
right,
and so if I have a subsequent traumatic experience, it's building on top of that trauma. It's building on top. It's almost reinforcing the ideas that I already have. So if I was abused as a child, and I always had a sense that I was not in control of anything, what would COVID-19 have done? It would
further not in control. Because when I went to work, and I'm a manager at work, I'm in charge of that. When I went to church, if I had a church office, I'm in charge of that. So, oh wow.
Yeah. So that lack of control over anything at all. If you looked around your life, it was just completely bereft of control. And as human beings, we like to control stuff.
Yes.
We like to know outcomes. We like to know what comes next. And when we don't have that, we feel insecure. We feel afraid. We will get to the point where we will either shut down, we'll fight against it, or we'll find another way of coping. For some people, that's a good way, which is when you work through that healing and resolution.
Right.
But outside, in the absence of that, we are gonna freeze. We're gonna fight. We're gonna freeze, or we're gonna run.
So, and the studies showed that people used more alcohol during that time.
Absolutely.
And abused and trauma, people who claimed trauma as childhood used even more.
Right. So what we already knew before we started the research was that individuals who had childhood trauma were more likely to have alcohol abuse, substance use issues, more likely to drink. What the research suggests is that alcohol and substance use is a method of coping. So it's
A numbing.
It's a way to mask what I'm feeling. There's this writer that I really like, Dr. Gabor Mate, that wrote this really excellent book that I always reference when I'm talking about addiction, called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And one of the questions he asked is not why the addiction, but why the pain? What is it that this person has experienced that I have to escape from my life by using a substance?
And other alternative lifestyle.
Other alternative lifestyle. Well, alternative substances. It could be anything.
Drug
why
use.
am I a workaholic? Why am I a videoaholic? Like, why do I do things to excess? So it could be anything.
So let me ask you a question, Kamala. How much damage does the church do when we turn away people because of their alcoholic addiction, because of their sexual preferences, because of the surface stuff that we're seeing? If you're saying it's not why the abuse of whatever it is, but it's why the pain. If that's what you're saying, how much damage do we do? How much damage do we further inflict on people when we say you can't become members of our church because you're an alcoholic?
What we do is send those individuals to seek out support.
Jesus. Woo.
So there's this story that came up on my Facebook. I can't remember it verbatim, but I think it completely shows the picture of what happens with churches. It was a story about a man who came to church drunk, and when he came to church drunk, the people looked down at their noses at him. The pastor preached about him, and of course he left. So he left and went to the bar, and when he slipped and fell in the barmaid helped him up. The people who were sitting in the bar talked to him, and that's a picture that I want to paint. When we disconnect people from support from the church, what we tell those individuals is that you don't belong here. And people are always going to seek support. People are always going to seek camaraderie. People are always going to
seek the numbing effects. Alcohol has numbing effects, but after it wears off, the situation remains the same. Exactly, Christine.
Right.
So my question to you, Kamala, is how do we as a church? So for example, right now I'm talking with one of my members and we're going back and forth. I say that we're accepting gay people in our church. She misunderstands that to say I'm saying that the gay lifestyle is right, or I'm accepting homosexuality, or you understand what I'm saying? And my friend and I, Carl, were talking the other day, and we were saying we don't accept blindness. We accept blind people.
How about we take the label off altogether? We accept.
That's my whole point. We accept people regardless of what their preferences or biological liabilities are, or whatever they like. How do we as a church stay away from labeling people and accepting people with all of their traumas, their dramas, understanding that the church is going to be a very messy place? How do we get to a point where we comfortably do that?
We recognize that the labels that we put on are our means of controlling people.
Woo! So we are sick. Because isn't it sick to try and control somebody else?
So the way I think about it is this. So God has all power, right?
Right.
Complete power.
Yes.
Snap of his finger, it's all.
Yes.
God says, here are your choices, here are the consequences of both.
Right.
Regardless of the consequences of your choices, I'm still gonna love you.
Right.
I'm still gonna work at bringing you to me.
Right. And the church is supposed to be a conduit.
Exactly. But what we do is I stick this label on you. I say to you that you are this, and unless you are something else, I cannot love you.
So can we remove the mask tonight? Can we, Sister Marilyn says, God's children is still in the world. They're going to come in. Yes, Sister Marilyn. Yes, Sister Remo. They're going to take our crown.
Facts. 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 Because the truth is, we're covering something up.
We all struggle. We are all in pain. Think about what I said in the very beginning. Most people have experienced some kind of trauma.
Trauma. And most people have not sought help for. Most people don't even know the trauma they're acting out of. And church people, like the woman at the well, is one of the safest place to go hide our trauma because we're all pretending.
Right. And we've all gotten the message that in order to be a good church member, we must present well.
And somebody's making money off of this, isn't it? Well, at the end of this, isn't there a dollar sign? When you trace this thing, isn't there a dollar sign that we rather people suffer in silence and pretend versus bleed and be healed so that we can keep getting tithe dollars?
That probably is a part of it. Part of it is that we're also,
and I'm not saying we're doing it intentionally.
No, I'm not saying that either. But part of it is that we're also uncomfortable with people's discomfort.
But right, but Kamala, the challenge I have with saying we're uncomfortable with people's discomfort. You know, I'm talking to some young people that I'm trying to befriend. I'm trying to get to come back to church, so forth and so on. And what one of them said to me was, you know, my problem with the church, we're grown now. And what we've realized is that the same people who used to tell us don't run in church, the same people who used to tell us don't have sex, the same people who used to tell us they were cheating on their spouses, they were doing all of this evil stuff while saying to us, don't run in church. Yeah. And now our young people are saying, it's not real. We don't want to have anything to do with it because it's not real.
Because all our stuff is unresolved, and so we find other mediums to control other things and people as opposed to trying to work on our own stuff.
I think we need a part 2.
Maybe.
Time has been, it's 8:56. The time has been spent. We will bring Kamala back. We will continue this discussion. It probably won't be until October. Unless somebody drops out. If somebody drops out, we will continue our discussion on childhood trauma, COVID, and alcohol usage. And I believe in talking about the church. Sister Stan says, the way I think about it when it comes to behavior in church, hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. Right.
And Sister Sands, I'll say this to you, that is true, but at the same time, as hurt people, I put myself in that category. Once I have awareness that I am a hurt person, it's then my responsibility to do something about that so I don't keep hurting others.
And so, can we change the language? Can we stop calling people sinners? You know what? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Daddy, forgive me for calling people sinners. Please, Lord. Can we change the language? Can we start calling people hurt? I think we would look at people differently if we change the language.
Yes, we would.
And we're going to say what the King James Version says, or the Bible says, or the Bible was not written in English. The Bible was not written in English. They used the best language to interpret what God was saying at the time. And I believe that God was saying hurt, traumatized instead of sin.
I think that's true.
And I wish Carl was here, because Carl and I were having this conversation the other day. And what Carl and I were saying the other day is, what Carl and I were saying the other day is, just like blindness, any other sin, blindness could not go into the temple. Mm-hmm. Blindness, a blind person, a person that was missing a finger, could not go into the Old Testament temple because it wasn't whole. It represented sin. It represented a deformity of what God intended.
And whose interpretation is it?
And whose interpretation was that? So in the very same way, so as of this moment, sinner is dropped from my vocabulary. I want to talk about traumatized people. I want to talk about hurt people. And I believe when we do it that way.
If I can see somebody as a person who has been hurt, wouldn't I then be empathetic?
And when I'm not empathetic, it says something about me. So let's stop telling on ourselves and let's view people as hurt, traumatized, which would be all of us. And let's get into the business of healing. Kamala, thank you. That's my takeaway for tonight. Anike, hashtag, people are not sinners. We are hurt and traumatized. Whether it's by our actions or somebody else's action. And according to you, our behavior comes from a whole system of other people that were connected to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kamala. Let's talk again.
This has been great.
This has been wonderful, Kamala. Let's talk again, explore this some more, and let's open this discussion up to our churches and see how it works.
Yeah.
All right, Annika, we've had several comments tonight. Who are we giving a prize to tonight? Who are we sending? Oh, before we go, let me tell you all really fast. We're working on a brand new project. Well, let me talk about me, for example. I'm working on stuff. I'm working on a brand new project that I hope will be ready for December. Annika, I'm gonna ask you to please create a landing page for a journey through the Gospel of Matthew, lessons from Jesus. A journey through the Gospel of Matthew, lessons from Jesus. That's a devotional that you'll be able to get to start for your new year. It's so exciting. As a matter of fact, if you head over to our Facebook page, Morning Manna, not by might nor by power, Morning Manna, you will see it there. And this devotional is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be interactive, and I'm telling you, it's Holy Spirit filled. So get ready to see in our store in December a journey through the Gospel of Matthew, lessons from Jesus. So get ready for that. And Kamala is working on
Journey to Healing. You guys are already very familiar with this series of programs. You're familiar with all of the books in the store, or you should be. And if you're not, please go ahead and go there, www.kwministries.net/store. But if you're not already familiar, what we'll be adding to that collection is a Journey to Healing, reaching people with a desperate cry, a therapeutic approach. And what it is, it actually talks about the 8 modules that we go through, but it talks about it from a clinical spiritual perspective.
And mine is going to be a journey to healing, reaching people with a desperate cry, a spiritual approach. So that's 3 brand new, exciting stuff that we're trying to have out. We're trying to have it all out by December. So get ready. We're going to have some really good healing reading materials coming up for you. We're going to create a landing page so that you can go ahead and start investing in us, so that way we will have money to preach. Anyway, listen, I'm just to tell you, I am just a true speaker.
It is true.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're so grateful. Annika, who are we sending a gift card to tonight?
Thank you guys for being so responsive and chatting with us.
Yes,
tonight.
we're
Really
grateful.
appreciate the feedback.
Yes. All right, Sister Remo, you are a winner, ma'am. And we invite you, Sister Remo, to go to
www.kwministries.net/claim your prize. Right there at the bottom of your screen, you'll enter your information and we will send you instructions.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for being on with us tonight. We are so grateful. Kamala,
Monday night.
you are live with KW. So, well, not the last 2 weeks. We weren't live, but we were there anyway.
You're here with us anyway.
All right, Elder Patterson, if you're watching all the way from Bermuda, congratulations, sir, and all the very best for your new assignment. God bless you. Everybody, thank you so very, 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 very much. Sister Remo, you're welcome. Go online right now, fill out your stuff, and I will personally drop off your gift to your house tomorrow. God bless all of you all. Thank you so much for hanging with us. Peace.